Hello everybody, welcome. Thank you for being here. Today's video is answering all of your questions. So I got a huge amount of questions. I chose about 8 to 10 of these questions to answer. I tried to pick a variety of different subjects so that we could talk about many different things. And I do want to preface that I am going to be tapping into the Galactic Federation of Light to answer these with me. So I invited them into this space so they could assist me in answering these questions. So the first question is about twin flames. And the question is, with timelines collapsing and events accelerating, has the twin flame mission and purpose changed? Are we still needed to come into union in the physical? So the first thing the Galactic Federation of Light showed me regarding this picture is we all came from that unified source consciousness, that one unified spark of all that ever is, was, and will be. We call it source or God, right? When we split, we become our own consciousness. We are now our own frequency, our own sovereign vibration, and then we get to choose. We're in the quantum space and we have free will, right? And we can choose any dimension, any frequency, any experience we want, right? And that's hard sometimes to comprehend from this very, very dense linear mind that we have, okay? But there is an infinite amount of experiences and ways in which we can split ourselves. The human has referred to the splitting of our own singular consciousness as a twin flame, and they have associated it with love and relationships, sex, that kind of thing, which is okay. That's very common for a third dimensional human to do. But what the Galactic Federation of Light said is the actual purpose of the twin flame mission on the earth plane, okay, on this earth plane, is to be able to fulfill the blueprint that the way shower higher consciousness has with more ease and grace. So it's almost like assistance, right? So if you as a higher consciousness in human form chose to drop in and bring in with you your split consciousness or twin, it's a horrible name, right? But your split, it's a split consciousness. It's when you as a consciousness split into another consciousness and you're both the same consciousness, but you're experiencing yourself differently and allowing yourself to have different experiences for the purpose of coming together and having sort of like double the power, right? So it's almost like you're creating a hybrid of you, and then and this hybrid has different abilities and different skills and different balancing traits, and when you come together, you're more apt to be able to do what you came onto the earth plane to do. The entire purpose of a twin flame in human form on the earth plane is to fulfill the mission or the purpose or the blueprint that you have. Okay, there are many different, you could have many different twin flames, okay? Not necessarily on the earth plane, but in many different dimensional fields and consciousnesses. You can split your consciousness in any now moment into another consciousness and have two of you in another dimensional field, okay? So originally, when the earth was in a lower frequency and when the human collective was in a lower frequency, it was really powerful to be able to drop in as a twin, meaning that you and your other half either dropped into the physical form together, so you both are holding different physical forms right now on the earth plane, or your twin, your other half, is holding themselves in a higher consciousness and a higher dimensional field off the earth plane, assisting you. But it is you. It's like your doppelganger, right? But it's actually you, and it's a balance. So you can call it a masculine and a feminine, but it's not just about masculine and feminine. There are many different characteristics, traits, and frequencies that both of you hold that when you come together, it amplifies. So if both dropped in when the earth was in a little bit of a lower frequency, so literally 5 years ago, the earth was in a lower frequency, right? If you dropped in whenever you did with a twin flame okay? Your mission and purpose aligned at the time that you dropped into human form. And then you did your life either able to finally come together in physicality or only being able to feel them energetically on the earth plane. So many people have this urge or this feeling of like, my twin, my other half is here, I just don't know where they are. They are either on the earth plane with you or they are off the earth plane assisting you. And not everyone has a split consciousness. Not everyone chose to split their consciousness. In the human third dimensional world, we want to feel that soulmate, that divine partner, that twin flame, right? We want to create it as a relationship, as a love, as a divine sort of coming together union, right? And there are many of those, but that's not necessarily the twin flame design, okay? And so the twin flame design, when you came together, if you've come together in the last 10 to 15, 20 years, the energies were lower on the earth plane. And so the connection when you first came together could have been intense and challenging and difficult, right? Because our bodies were in lower frequencies, the earth was in a lower frequency, and when a twin flame comes together, right, when two of the same consciousnesses come together, they're holding opposite sort of experiences of each other, right? And so they have to learn how to merge and mesh together as one, and that can be very, very challenging. Right now, we are now holding such high frequencies, and the earth is holding such high frequencies that we've been able to merge almost energetically without the need to physically connect to a twin. I.e., if you have a twin that's on this earth plane or off this earth plane, you don't ever necessarily need to merge with them physically, meaning meet them, connect with them, right? We are doing that now without the need for a twin. So back in the day when we were in a lower frequency and earth was in a lower frequency, the whole purpose of the twin was to be able to ignite and create more of a momentum so that you can get yourself working and do the mission at hand. Now we are holding such high frequencies that we don't need that assistance from our twin necessarily, right? So if you haven't met your twin and you think you have one, you don't necessarily need to meet them based on the frequency you're holding now. You have the ability to integrate, activate, up-level everything you need in your body right now without the assistance of your other half. Okay, so yes, the twin flame design is not the same right now as it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago at all. It's not as necessary, okay? Now, you can have any sort of experience you want around the twin flame journey, but what the Galactic Federation of Light has said is that the purpose of it was not relationship and love and lovey-dovey sex, marriage, children. That wasn't the purpose. But because we're in third dimension, they said that is very common to sort of have, you're going to have that innate love for them, that innate connection and chemistry. So we associate it with sex and love and relationship and marriage and children and blah, blah, blah. But it's way deeper than that. Okay, so it's complicated. Everybody has their own experiences around the twin flame. It's a horrible name because it's not really a twin, even though it kind of is. It's your other half. It's a split consciousness, right? So what I can say is that it's not important in this now that we search for and find the twin. It's already, you have the ability to merge with the twin now in your body energetically. So whether your twin is on the earth plane physically, you guys both dropped in together, or off the earth plane, okay, assisting you from above, there's no more need to externally search out. You can actually pull that twin flame energy in and merge. You have everything here now. So we don't need to search out for this companion, for this partner, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting a partner and wanting a companion, right? And wanting that divine partnership. It makes sense. It's part of the human design. But if that is all you're focused on and you are expecting that in order to be happy or to be fulfilled or to do your work, then you're going to miss what's happening and occurring right now. There's so much more that I could speak on the twin flame journey and experience, but it has shifted. And if you found and met your twin 5, 10, 15 years ago, okay, and you navigated it however you did, either you're still together as friends, as partners, as mother, daughter, father, son, whatever that may be as well, because twins are in that relationship as well. Whether you're together or not together, right? The reason for this coming together has shifted, and there is not. You don't need it now. So the point is if you haven't met your twin, right, you don't necessarily need to any longer. I hope this makes sense. The frequency has shifted to high enough vibration that we don't need the assistance of the twin. So in souls coming in, light, higher frequency beings coming into physical form right now aren't creating twins. They're not creating counterparts to drop in together, right? They don't need to anymore because they have the high frequency on the earth plane allowing them to activate on their own. God, I hope this made sense. It was complicated. Okay, next question. I want to know how us Lightworkers can help the children who struggle with the school system. They are put under so much pressure to obtain qualifications when most businesses do not know what these qualifications mean. So the school system, whatever country you live in, is a paradigm, right? And what is happening to us as we awaken is we are looking at this paradigm, the school system, whether it's K through 8, high school, college, university, graduate school, whatever it is a system that has been in place for a very long time in a third dimensional frequency. And as we start to increase our frequencies and start to move into and be in those higher consciousnesses, what happens? We start looking at these paradigms and saying, oh, this doesn't make any sense anymore. Like, I don't even understand why this is how it is, right? And yet, we have to put our kids in that paradigm, in that system that makes no sense. So first, let's just look at it as energy. There's a paradigm in a lower frequency, very structured, very linear, and from a higher perspective, which is you asking the question and you looking at it, right? You're in a higher frequency. It doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it. You can combat it and fight it and argue and get upset, right? You can see it for what it is, allow your child to go in it, but constantly reinforce to your child what it is. So you want to allow your child to be free. So yes, your child is in that matrix, okay? It's in that contained, linear, structured paradigm, which is a consciousness. But can you start to remind your child that they are not that structured linear system they're in? They are free to learn other ways when they are home. So can you open that gate or that cage up for them so that they don't feel so restricted when they're in it? Sure, when they step into that school and they're in that environment, that linear structured environment, they're going to have to follow those rules, okay? But when they step out of it and are no longer in that school for the day or the week or the month or whatever, however long they get to step out of it, the weekend, you have the ability to teach your child other ways to be. Right? So you're not fighting and saying this system is horrible, this system sucks, whatever that is. You can do that. Or you can also teach your child other ways of being creative and learning and expressing themselves and reminding them that this is not the only way, right? This is not the only way. And there will be a moment in your now where you will be free to express yourself and to learn the way you want to. You can also just take your child out of that system and create a new system for them, homeschooling them if that's an option for you, putting them in a different type of school that doesn't create that linear structure, right? So there are options. We are not necessarily stuck. But if you have to put your child in a system that is structured and linear and teaching them things that make no sense and isn't going to assist them necessarily, can you also teach the flip side of that coin, which is, what is your creativity? What do you want to do? What do you want to share? What do you want to speak? Let that individual, that young child, that individual being in that human form express itself when it is out of the linear structure, right? Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. So if there's pressure for these children to do these things and do these things and do these things, right? You got to get A's, you got to do this, you got to do... First of all, if the child is okay with it and is enjoying it, then let the child be. If the child is struggling and doesn't understand it and doesn't like it and is suffering in it, then you start to remind them of what this is all about. Then you start to say to them, how do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? Give them more of the control back, right? So you got to balance the fact that you can choose to fight this system, but that's only going to create, a hitting against a lot of excess energy, right? Or you can teach your child other ways of being outside of that system. You can remind your child that this is not the end all be all of how the world and consciousness works. And that they get to choose and that they get to decide. Even though when they walk in there, this is the structure. Teach them that. This is a matrix. This is what it looks like. You walk in and then you do this, 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 this. And we're choosing to do this with you, right? Blah, blah, blah. But when you're out of that matrix, what do you want? Be free, create, design, right? And you have the choice of completely stepping out of that matrix and that paradigm altogether and putting the child or the teenager in something else, if that's an option for you. But I think what I'm hearing is teaching them the alternate ways of being while they're in it. Okay? Teaching them the alternate ways, showing them the other perspective. So yeah, they're in it, but what's the other perspective that you can see and teach and be while you're in it? Okay, third question. Can you speak on addiction? Weed and coffee have become daily habits for me. I crave them. I look forward to them, especially together. That might not seem like a big deal, but as someone who's been sober from alcohol for over 4 years, I tend to question my habits, which is good and bad. It's easy to overanalyze, but it's also super easy to justify. How do I know sometimes? Sometimes I end up beating myself up and feeling like I shouldn't or can't smoke weed at all, or I go to the other direction and use cannabis every single day. How can we find balance with addictions? Or is that really just an all or nothing? Okay, so addictions are a crutch. They are a behavior that you have learned that has become habitual, that allows you to feel relaxed. It allows you to feel like you're taking a time out from the world. It allows you to check out, right? There's a lot of things that addictions, the behavior within the addiction allows for you. And when we are in the intense shifts in consciousness, which is right now, we tend to lean into those addictions even more. Right? These behaviors. And if we can see them from a neutral lens, which is, okay, this is a behavior, right? It may be harmful for me. It may not be harmful for me. But can I see what this is providing for me? When I do the behavior, what is it providing? What is it giving me? Can I see it as that crutch, right? What is it providing for me? And then you start to say to yourself, okay, do I want to continue with those behaviors without the perspective of duality, which is right and wrong? So starting to look at your addictions not through the lens of duality, but through the lens of neutrality. And then you'll be able to make decisions based on those behaviors and addictions from a different perspective. Instead of beating yourself up, you'll say, do I want to keep doing that? Yeah, I do today. Eventually, when your body is holding higher frequencies, many addictions will fall away, including weed, including cannabis, including alcohol, including smoking, including coffee, which I drink every day. Eventually, our bodies will no longer want it. And you will find yourself not doing it. But in the now moment, if you are doing it, are you beating yourself up? What's the energy that you're holding around you in that addiction? That's more important than the actual behavior. And if you are watching yourself in that behavior and you are ready to shift out of that behavior, start to make that choice. Start to become the observer of that addiction, of that behavior. I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. Do I want to do it? I don't want to do it, but it's habitual and I'm so used to it that I'm doing it. Okay, can I love myself while I'm doing it? Can I love myself while I'm doing it? Key. Can I love myself and not beat myself up? There's two different frequencies. Okay, if you're beating yourself up, you're holding a low frequency vibration around you when you're doing it, and you're making it worse for you, as opposed to loving yourself while you're doing it, creating a different frequency, a different vibration around you, holding you, loving you, saying it's okay. There will be another now moment where you won't be doing this behavior. You won't be doing this addiction, and you get to choose in every now. So it's completely up to you whether you want to continue to smoke weed every day or you don't. I can guarantee you that there will come a time where you will not desire that. We will not desire putting anything into our systems that alters our regular consciousness, our normal way of being. Right? So alcohol shifts the chemistry, weed shifts the chemistry. Other alternative drugs, they shift the chemistry. They shift the consciousness in us and the frequencies in us. And there will come a time where you will not desire that. It won't make sense. It won't feel right. But there's nothing wrong with what you're doing now. Okay? Even though society would say, there's a paradigm that would say smoking weed is bad, drinking alcohol is bad, you have an addiction, that is bad. There's nothing bad about having addiction. It's called being a human. And it's called creating habits and eventually an addiction so that you can manage your life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? So have compassion for yourself. See it more as an energetic experience as opposed to I'm smoking weed and drinking coffee or any other addiction you have. And then start to observe it and choose. Do I want to keep doing this? Yeah, I do. Okay, I'm going to keep doing it. Choose from the creator. See everything as the creator that you are as opposed to a victim. I've got this addiction. I've got this behavior that I can't stop. No, you can if you start choosing to. Right? So see the addiction, see the behavior from the observer. See everything as energy. Don't beat yourself up and make it wrong that you have an addiction, wrong that you have habitual behaviors that you're doing. Love yourself for them. They provided you something in another now when you didn't have anything else to work with whatever you were going through. So you used these behaviors to assist you. Even coffee, right? So we don't necessarily need to dive into where did this stem from and why do you have it. You stay in the present moment now and say, okay, do I want to continue? You know? And if you have been sober, you know, which means that you are prone to latching onto things that shift your consciousness. And this is just for this individual's question. You want to look at the use of weed. When do you do it? Is it shifting your consciousness? When it shifts your consciousness, what happens? When you come out of that shift in consciousness, what does it feel like? Right? And what does it mean if I stop weed? What does that look like? Why am I even doing it? Why am I doing it right now? Why am I doing it right now, right? Let's start dissecting. Does your body want it? My body doesn't want coffee. Every morning when I get coffee, I know I can hear my body saying, please don't put that in me. So there will come a time where I will no longer be drinking coffee. But in the meantime, my ego, personality, Lori, human, really wants coffee every morning and doesn't know how she's going to survive without it. So what do? I love the hell out of myself while I'm drinking coffee, and I don't look at it as like, oh my God, you're destroying your body. You're doing something horrible, right? So you really want to watch not beating yourself up and then start choosing being the observer and know that you're the creator. Okay, next question. How can I heal PTSD? One moment I've got my shit together in order to do my job, excuse my language, while also filtering out my coworkers' anxiety. And then hours later, I'm paralyzed with depression and sadness. I know many people are feeling the effects of PTSD. The mental health of modern society is in a crisis. Okay. We're actually not in a crisis. So PTSD, you're actually not necessarily speaking of PTSD. So here's what's happening. Here's what's coming through. We are no longer holding consciousnesses the way we used to. So when we were in lower frequencies, when our body was in lower frequencies, we would have an external experience. That external experience would move into our body. Let's just say it was a car accident. Okay? And that car accident would be filtered in, and we would have experienced the fear, the physical pain, the anxiety, the stress, the worry, whatever came energetically from that external experience, the car crash. And then what happens is the emotions and experiences were so intense that we blocked them. We suffocated it. We didn't feel it. It was too much. So we tapped into it. Right? And then it was like, oh, hell no, that's too much to feel. This is very unconscious what we do. That's too much to feel. I'm not going there. And then that energy, consciousness, emotions, thoughts, beliefs, behaviors that came from that car crash gets stored in the body. And it becomes PTSD, which means that in 5 years, 10 years, something will trigger the consciousness from that car accident that you never cleared out or integrated. What's happening right now is that you are holding higher frequencies. So not only are you clearing out that PTSD, making you think that you're creating more PTSD, so you're clearing out any external consciousnesses that got stuck in your body that feel as if they're PTSD. PTSD would be something triggers this. It's being triggered by specific things, right? So a now moment externally is triggering consciousness from a previous now that you never cleared out, that was intense, that was traumatic. What's happening now is that any external traumatic experience that we're having now is not being turned into PTSD, i.e., it's not getting stored in our body because our body is holding too high of a frequency. So what is happening is we are feeling it all the way through, which we're not used to. And so we think that it is this massive, like, traumatic experience and event that may have been built up from other previous events. And yet it's just based on that now experience that you had that was traumatic, right? So we're not creating more PTSD in our body necessarily. We're holding too high of a frequency. It's like a water slide. But we are feeling the intense traumatic and fear-based experiences, anxiety, stress, worry. We're feeling it now. So it's very, very intense. And when that happens, you can feel severe depression, severe sadness, anxiety. You can be knocked out for an entire day. What we are doing is we are learning how to now feel third dimensional consciousness in a way that we never have before, which is completely and fully through us. So when you're out at the hospital or at the grocery store or anything, if you have a car accident, if you have any traumatic experience, and you're holding higher frequencies, which most of you are, you're going to feel that experience to its fullest. And it's going to move through you. And it's going to feel like, holy shit. And it's going to continue to perpetuate and filter through you for a day, a week, a month. It's not PTSD. What it is you filtering that consciousness through, and it may take some time. So any consciousness that's in you from a previous traumatic experience that's stored in you as PTSD is clearing as well. But what they want you to understand is most of you are not creating more PTSD. What we're creating and experiencing is the complete fullness of experiencing an external experience. We're feeling it completely now, and we're not used to that. And so when you say, you're paralyzed. Hours later, I'm paralyzed with depression and sadness. And one moment I've got my shit together to do your job, and then the next you're paralyzed with the depression and sadness. So what's happening is when your body does not need to be in motion, working, functioning, okay? But you're in an experience where there may be intense consciousness that you're feeling, okay? You're not going to necessarily feel it in that moment, but when the next moment comes that your body is relaxed, you're going to start to feel it come through you. And the reason that it's happening so quickly, a couple hours later, even a day later, is because it's no longer staying in you. It's no longer staying stuck in you, okay? I hope this makes sense. So you don't want to look at it as like, I've got PTSD and I need to heal it. You want to look at it as energy. The way you clear out, heal, or integrate energies, PTSD or not, is just starting to feel everything. You feel it, you feel it, you feel it. And what I'm really being told right now for so many of you is that it's not PTSD that you're feeling and clearing. It is the now experiences, whether you are feeling them in that now moment or in a couple of hours because you couldn't feel it right then. You are literally feeling the external, intense consciousness right now. The fear, the anxiety, the worry, the stress, all of that. You're feeling it. And when your body relaxes, it's in you. And because you're holding the higher frequencies, it literally moves right through you. And because we aren't holding it anymore, because the body is allowing it to move through, because we're holding the higher frequencies, we feel all of it. And it's literally debilitating, which is why PTSD was created in the first place, which is why addictions were created in the first place, which is why we have so much density in our bodies that we're clearing. Because when it originally comes in, it's too intense to feel. The third dimensional consciousness, you guys, is so intense. It's super intense. And so when it comes in, we get rattled and we're like, oh, hell no, I'm not feeling that. Now we're feeling all of it because we're holding higher frequencies and it's going to knock you out, perhaps, but you're going to get used to it, right? So you don't want to look at it as I have PTSD. You don't want to look at it as how do I heal PTSD? You want to look at it as, oh, I'm actually engaging with intense consciousness externally in the now. And if I'm not feeling it in that now moment, it's because I have to function. But I'm feeling it 6 hours later, which is great. And I'm feeling it so intensely because my body's holding higher frequencies like a water slide. And that consciousness that I felt 6 hours ago is now moving through. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Let's talk about mental illness. Many people have family and friends that suffer from mental illness. I mostly understand the reason for this challenge. but I'm having problems living with two mentally ill family members. I'm judging them all the time. I can't stop. And the attachment aspect, I want to detach, but I'm a caretaker. How can I better deal with my adult autistic trans child and my bipolar OCD recently diagnosed with lymphoma X? We all must live together. Okay, so with mental illness, the first thing that's coming through is it's obviously, hopefully everybody understands this, it's not a choice, right? From the perspective of the third dimensional lens. However, from a much larger perspective, that higher consciousness chose that experience. They chose to drop into the body and to have that experience. And so whether that human understands that or not is not the point. Most of them are not going to unnecessarily understand that. But what is important to hold is your awareness that that is their human experience. That they are having their human experience. That they are being in their human form with the frequencies that they're holding. And when you, as a human with your own frequencies and sovereign field, bump up against them, it creates a reaction and a response, and you're allowed to have that. You're allowed to take timeouts. You're allowed to get upset. You're allowed to have all the human experiences and emotions, thoughts, behaviors. You're allowed to have that. Give yourself that. But, can you start to look at the entire experience with those that have mental illness from a different lens? And this takes practice. Can you start to see them as a high frequency light being in physical form, literally in that body, stuck in that body, so to speak, although they're not necessarily stuck. They've created that experience they're having in that mental illness, even if they're not aware of it, but you are. You're learning to see things from a higher perspective. You're learning to not associate them as bipolar, as schizophrenic, as OCD. They are experiencing that. They are not OCD. They are not schizophrenic. They are not bipolar. They're experiencing that human experience. And God bless them. Because I can't imagine what that would feel like. So we have to start to practice dropping into the heart space, seeing them as a higher consciousness just like you in physical form, watching them behave through those energies that we call mental illness, knowing from a higher perspective that they chose all of this to experience, even though it's difficult. And then can we give ourselves permission to have the human experiences, reactions, responses that we're going to have at times? You got to start to balance both. You've got to put that other lens on every once in a while and say, wait a second, higher perspective lens. Because what that's going to do is it's going to drop you into your heart. It's going to drop you into the fourth energy center, and all of a sudden you're going to feel relief. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to fix. There's nothing you have to fight against. There's nothing you have to resolve. In the human third dimensional world, you may have to create things, assist them with things, help them in their life. But on an energetic level, there's nothing you need to do. But understand who they actually are, what they've actually chosen, and what they're currently going through in that human body. And the more that we can do that, the more we're able to sit back and observe and love them through any of their temper tantrums, any of their massive breakouts or their splits or whatever happens. We're not attached to it. We don't react to it. We observe it. We watch it. We love them through it. And if there is a tight, confined space that you're in, then it is your job to take space away, not theirs. They're just doing them. Not easy. I completely understand. But it's your job to take care of you. It's your job to have firm boundaries around what you are going to listen to and what you're going to, how much you'll listen to, how much you'll take in, how much you'll hold, and how much you won't. So how much time are you giving to you? Right? So we want to start to bring awareness back into our own space, our own sovereignty as well. Choice. They will be okay if I take a 3-hour car drive. If I go lock myself in my room for 2 hours, right? And you have to practice this. We have to practice this because maybe they're not used to that and they're going to get upset and angry and fight and argue and say, why are you doing this? You never do this, right? It's not black and white. It's not a right or wrong, good or bad, yes, no. It's anything in between. It's any of that. And we have to navigate it. We have to learn how to navigate this. And we begin by putting the other lens on. Okay, wait a second, let me see them. And we got to practice that over and over and over and over. Because we see them as that label. We're used to it. And then we blame them, we judge them, we label them. We get upset with them. And it's not their fault. They're having their human experience. And what a way to experience the human journey with mental illness. And they chose it. It's a choice before they dropped in. All of it. So sit with that. Let that sink in a little bit, right? With anybody that has mental illness. Okay, what else? I'm having a hard time adjusting to new energies. I feel odd, like I'm not anywhere. I feel lost, and this world does not seem real anymore. I feel numb and anxious. So these are very normal responses to starting to move out of a third dimensional field energetically. So what's starting to happen to so many of us is we are starting to literally experience ourselves in a fourth and a fifth dimensional field. And we've never been in that fourth and fifth dimensional field. And the fourth dimensional field is like a bridge. It's like assistance moving into the fifth dimensional field or the fifth dimensional consciousness, right? And so what's happening is your body is literally oscillating between the third and the fifth frequencies, consciousnesses in your body. So your body is going from 3 to 5, moving through 4, third dimensional consciousness, fourth dimensional consciousness, and fifth dimensional consciousness, and it's moving, oscillating back and forth, right? And when you're in the higher frequencies sometimes, and you're moving into it, unaware that that's what's happening, on an energetic level, that's what's happening. It can feel very disoriented, very weird, very much like, where am I? What world am I in? Like, nothing makes sense. I can't grasp anything, right? Your physicality is literally shifting consciousnesses. Right now, physically, your body is shifting physically. It is turning into crystal right before our eyes. You just can't see it, just like your hair's growing right before your eyes, but you can't see the hair grow. You can't see your hair grow, but it's growing. You can't see your body shifting, but it's shifting. It's shifting. So what you're experiencing when you talk about feeling odd, that you're not anywhere, you're lost, the world does not seem real anymore, that is moving into and experiencing your nows through a fifth dimensional consciousness. And when you're in that bridge of the fourth dimension, it can feel very much like, which one am I in? You know, like it can feel foggy and sort of like, what the hell? Yesterday, I knew I was in third. 3 days ago, I knew I was in a 5D consciousness. Now I just feel like, where am I, right? You're in that fourth dimensional bridge in between both. And then when you're feeling real high frequencies, you're like, oh, I'm feeling that 5D consciousness. You can experience it. You know what it is. You're feeling it. When you're in the 3D consciousness, you're like, I've got this. I know what it is. I can label it, right? When you're in that fourth dimensional bridge, you're like, oh, I'm not sure where I am, right? And then you combine all of that happening in every now moment, and you're like, what the freak am I experiencing? What am I feeling? What is going on? And it's happening like this all day long. This isn't like one day you're here and one day, it's happening all day long, your body shifting like this. Because you're still holding the 3D consciousnesses. You're starting to hold more 5D consciousness. And you're navigating it by walking through the fourth dimensional bridge. So it's very normal. You are shifting consciousnesses. You are literally shifting dimensional fields. Your lens and how you see your reality is shifting based on the frequencies in your body. So imagine like 3 separate clouds, and you're kind of moving through the 3 clouds, and you're not yet familiar with that these shifting spaces, right? And you're like, what am I? Where am I? What's going on? It's called shifting the frequencies in your body. Okay. 2 more questions. I would like to know, with all the shifts and upgrading of our DNA, will this lead to a positive regeneration of our cellular structure? And does this help alter the blueprint of our lives from the one we were born with in the astrological sense? Okay. Your DNA is the word we use that holds the light codes. The light codes are what are being activated. The light codes hold the higher frequencies. The light codes hold your divine blueprint. The light codes hold the aspects of you that you are going to become in the higher frequencies, your abilities, your gifts, your purpose, all of that. If you have a specific purpose, it's all held in the light codes. And the light codes hold multiple dimensions. And based on the frequency of your body, the light codes will start to turn on. So if there's light codes that are in a 4th dimensional frequency, which there are, as soon as your body is holding 4D consciousness, your body will activate the light codes, and your DNA will, the light codes will turn on, your DNA will turn on, and your cells will start to hold or regenerate into those higher frequencies. You won't get as sick as much. You'll start to not age the same way. You will crave different foods. Your body will want different types of exercise. Your relationships will start to change. The restructuring of your cells is going to restructure everything about your physicality. And the restructuring of the cells occurs when the light codes start to turn on into higher frequencies, which is based on your body holding higher frequencies. It's very simple. The body starts to hold higher frequencies. The light codes turn on based on those higher frequencies, allowing you to access the higher consciousnesses. And your cells are then accessing those higher consciousnesses. So your whole body is regenerating. Your body is turning into a crystalline body. It's a slow process, but that's what's happening. So your cells are shifting. They're going to change. And we don't have to do anything about this. This happens naturally, right? Everything will start to shift as this occurs, and it's occurring now for many of us. And what happens is we don't get sick the same way. We don't get affected by 5G the same way. We don't get affected by vaccines the same way. We don't get affected by water or foods or any of that in the same way as when our bodies were in the lower frequencies, in those lower DNA structures. When the body is in the very dense 3rd dimensional carbon-based structures, we are sort of victim to these external environmental frequencies, whether it is 5G or vaccines or foods or pollution in the water, whatever it is, right? It is ingested into the body, and because the body is not holding a high enough frequency to expel it, literally, energetically expel it, it's infected by it. But as the body starts to hold the higher frequencies and the light codes turn on, which allows our cells to turn into higher frequencies, imagine a brighter light in your body. When you're holding higher frequencies, vaccines can't do shit to the cells. Excuse my language. The frequency and vibration of the DNA and cellular structure of your entire body is in a frequency now that anything that is injected into your body literally gets repelled. It gets repelled. We don't understand this, and we definitely don't necessarily believe this yet because we haven't been able to really recognize, experience, and understand it. But that's what's happening. And if you hold the belief that you are still holding a very dense carbon-based body and that's getting infected or impacted by the 5G or the vaccines or the pollution of the water, all of that, then you are going to be experiencing that repercussion, that result. If you hold and know that your body's holding higher frequencies, your cells are currently shifting into higher frequencies right now. If you could take a picture of your body now and 5 years ago, it would be completely different energetically. New cells, more activated light codes, all of this is happening. Higher frequencies in your body. And so when these things come in externally that are environmental, radiation, whatever it is, it doesn't have the same impact on your body. Your body can repel and fight it off from the frequency that it's holding. The light that it has dissolves it. Light is way more potent and way more powerful than the radiation that's coming in, than the chemicals in the vaccines, than anything that you are environmentally ingesting. We've got to shift the way we view it. We've got to start to shift the way we view our human body. And many humans can't believe that. They can't hold that. They don't believe it, and they won't. And that's okay. There will come a now moment where they will start to believe that. But it's okay that they don't. Nobody has to believe anything, right? The only truth is your truth. But that's what's happening to the physical body. And that's how you can start to see the 5G towers being put up, right? And the radiation that is coming in. Yes, it's true. That radiation can harm physical forms. But if your body is holding the much higher frequencies, your light codes are activating and turning on, guess what? Your cells are literally restructuring themselves. You're a brighter light, whether you understand that or not. The radiation will literally be repelled and dissolved. The vaccine that goes into your body will literally be dissolved. You're holding too much light. And again, this is news, or this is messages that are going to be like, hell no, you've lost your mind. 2 years from now, you'll be like, oh shit, I get it now. She was right. So it's not about stopping the vaccines or stopping the 5G. It's starting to recognize that regardless of what happens out there, I am constantly moving into these higher frequencies. I am constantly holding the higher frequencies. My cells are vibrating higher. My DNA and light codes are in a higher frequency. Anything that is ingested or inserted into me, I am a different type of human now. So the science that you hear about is based on a lower frequency human body. We are shifting into higher frequency human bodies, you guys. The scientific community isn't going to be doing research on us. They're not going to be saying, holy shit, you're in a much higher frequency. Your light codes are turning on. Your cells are regenerating. They wouldn't know what to do with that yet. So they're giving us all the information based on a third dimensional, dense physical form. And so it's true. So when people say, well, is it true what they're saying? Yeah, it's true. It's a very true paradigm. It's absolutely true. But what is also true is that we're holding higher frequencies. Our bodies are shifting into crystal. Our light codes are activating more and more and more. We have more light in us, literally, and we can dissolve anything that comes in. You just have to believe that. So there was a couple questions that came in about vaccines and how to deal with that. And that is one way of dealing with it, is understanding that. It's a powerful thing to understand, you guys. Our bodies are not dense third dimensional carbon-based bodies any longer. They're shifting. And we've got to hold that perspective. And you already know this. You know that the frequency of light can burn up any chemical, can burn up anything that's in a lower frequency. And the radiation that comes in from anything is dissolved. It just repels from this high frequency vibration and tone that's in your body right now. It's physics. That's why a 5D physical body, a body that is anchored and holding only 5D consciousness, is crystalline. The DNA is crystal, not carbon. They never get sick. They're not impacted by any sort of external environmental experiences that could harm their bodies. It's like they're encased in high frequency light. And that's what we're shifting into. So remember, what is being given to us, what is being told to us, the scientific community is based on a denser third dimensional carbon-based DNA human body. And it's absolutely true what they're saying. I'm not holding a dense carbon-based human body anymore. I'm holding a body that is shifting into crystal, and so are you. Your light codes are already activating. So are mine. Your DNA is shifting, so is mine. Our cells are regenerating and restructuring themselves into higher frequencies so that it can fight off anything. If you're sick, you will heal. Think of the belief systems that you have. What are your thoughts around everything? Start seeing your physical body as shifting into crystal. The cells regenerating. Any illness, any physical pain, any physical disease will heal as your body shifts. We will see miracle after miracle after miracle as soon as the human starts to hold this concept and understand it. Hold it and believe it as truth. Your belief systems will create the reality that you hold, even if you're holding higher frequencies. If your body's holding higher frequencies and yet you still believe what they're telling you about the third dimensional carbon-based human, then you're going to be in that experience. Even though your body's holding higher frequencies, that is how powerful our thoughts are. The Galactic Federation of Light, Jesus, tells me this all the time. Your thoughts will create your reality, not your frequency. That's how crazy and scary it is to be a human. Think about that. Your thoughts are more powerful than the frequency in your body. So you've got to get into the body and feel your frequency to remember, oh yeah, I'm a high frequency light being. Oh my God, my DNA is shifting. The light codes are turning on. The cells are regenerating. The thoughts that are held back in that lower consciousness human body, the DNA that's in carbon, that's not me anymore. I got to remember that. My cells are healing. The body is healing. I've got to remember that. I've got to hold that over and over and over. They got to work in tangent with each other. The thoughts have to connect to the body so that you can remember. Otherwise, you will constantly get pulled back. to disease and illness, right? And so right now, for many of you, you're feeling a huge amount of physical ailments. It's time to clear them or integrate them into the light. And the way you do that is you recognize it as consciousness that's integrating into your light body, your body that's holding light, not the actual light body that's your higher consciousness. It's the body that is turning into light. Your body, this disease, this pain, this discomfort, these illnesses is consciousness that's turning into and merging with the light that you're holding in your body. And so it's coming up for you to see it, acknowledge it, honor it, and let it merge. Meditate with it, see it, love it, and then continue to hold the beliefs and the thoughts that your body is shifting out of carbon into crystalline. Your body is going to heal itself naturally. See the cells light up. See the cells bright. See the cells vibrating out high frequency light. See it literally repelling away anything a third dimensional paradigm is telling you. That's how powerful we are as co-creators. Or creator beings, not even co-creators, creator beings. Okay? So everything, think about this. Science is based on a third dimensional carbon dense body. You're not that anymore. Step away. We are the way showers. So we're taking on this new way of being. And we're like, I hope this is true. I hope what she's saying is right. I have no idea if what Lori is saying is right. I would love to believe it, then believe it. It's your choice. You get to choose what you believe. Right? So you either believe it or you don't. Either way, it's your choice and it creates your reality. Why not believe that you're shifting into crystal, that your cells are regenerating and putting off this high frequency light, that the light codes are continuing to turn on over and over and over as you hold higher frequencies, and that carbon dense based light codes and DNA are shifting. And you're fine. And you're going to get healthier. You're going to look younger. All of that's going to shift. Okay. There we go. I think that was it. That was all the questions that I was going to answer. Let me just double check and make sure that I answered all of the ones that I had. Last question. I want to answer this one. As a child, I remember being taken several times while I was asleep. I can still remember what I saw when I woke up in this place. I didn't see any beings, just the surroundings, and it was not Earth. When I woke back in my body in bed, I remember having this horrid taste in my mouth. I hated it. I even started to fear that I would wake with that taste in my mouth. It was horrible. My brother has seen a craft outside the bedroom at night. My question is, what do these beings do with us when they take us into their ships? Are we being altered or experimented on? Okay. A very long time ago, up until the 90s, there was many abductions and experiments being done on the human form. It is very, very, very rare for any humans to be experimented on and abducted in that way. So we have to really start to understand abduction, okay? Because all of us leave our bodies in the dream state. All of us, well, I won't say all of us. All of us leave our bodies in the dream state. Many of us have experiences with these higher dimensional light beings. And if we start to consciously wake up during that dream state, we will fall into old stories around this experience. And the old stories are, oh, this is an abduction. Oh, they're taking me somewhere. Oh, they're going to do an experiment on me. Oh, they're going to do a hybridization thing on me, right? Because that is what has occurred in the past. And that is what we have been told over and over and over again when we feel or experience ourselves being taken out of the body and experiencing going on a ship and going somewhere, right? Because there's not a lot of people right now that are talking about, oh, I'm actually consciously choosing to go into a ship and to go up to their craft and to play with them and to learn and to understand. That's not being spoken about as often yet. but it's going to start to. So the old story of being abducted and experimented on is going to shift to this new story, which is I am consciously in my dream state or in my waking state choosing to go with these beings and move up to their ship. Nobody's abducting me. It feels like an abduction in your dream state because you are not conscious. But most of us are not actually being abducted and infiltrated the way we used to be 30 years ago up until 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, right? I just did a video on that. So it's important to understand, where is that story coming from? The abductions, the experimentations, okay? 99% of us are actually not having that any longer if we start to get clear and energetically tap into what is actually happening to us. We may have a fear of like, holy shit, what is this? They're taking me from my bed. Well, you're not used to being conscious of this. So it can feel like, holy cow, they're taking me. I don't have a choice. What's going on, right? So you want to start to get real conscious of what's actually happening. You have a choice to say no in every now as well, right? They are teaching us a huge amount right now in these ships. They are, when you talk about that taste in your mouth, I don't know where and what they were doing with you and what they were showing you, right? But what I can say is that most of us are not being abducted and experimented on the way it was in the past. And if we keep holding those stories, we're going to have a lot of fear about what is being asked of us now, which is to consciously begin to go on the ships. So we have a choice, just like with our bodies. We have a choice as to what story we're going to continue to play in and to believe in. And we've got to start to get clear on feeling the energy around every experience we have. So it sounds like you're starting to get familiar or conscious with what's happening in your dream state. Many of us are. And we initially will put fear on it because we don't understand it. We'll initially go to a fear-based belief system because we don't quite understand it. But I encourage you to get more curious. I encourage you to ask more questions. I encourage you to figure it out, because most likely it's higher dimensional, beautiful, benevolent light beings that are teaching you something and that are sharing something with you. So the person that asked this, if you start to go to bed and ask for more clarity, ask for more information, ask for more, show me more, provide me more, give me more, let me know more, whatever that is, they're going to show it to you. I am not in any way saying that those humans that are still experiencing abductions and experimentations on them, that's not happening. It's very possible that's happening. What I'm saying is 99.9% of us are no longer having those experiences. It's just not happening on the earth plane the same way. And we've got to let that go so that we can start to courageously, lovingly, consciously start to engage with them, understand how to engage with them, trust them, and begin to go up onto the ships consciously to receive and to remember and to be taught whatever it is they're doing with us in our dream state. Nothing to fear for the most part. So, great questions. Okay, you guys, that's it. I love you. Thank you for all the questions, and I will see you next time.